Since I get loads of questions around train driving, I'm interviewing Claire Weston, head of drivers at Great Western Railway. Someone who's been a train driver, managed train drivers, and interviewed for the role. I want to get like a brief background to like where you started in terms of with the railway. Like, were you a train spotter? Like, what were your aspirations? Like, let's go with the age of, let's go with just left college, for example.
Okay.
Because most people, like when you leave college, most people think that most people have it figured out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have it figured out. I joined the railway because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my dad was on the railway. He joined about a year before I did. And I just finished my A-levels and kind of was a bit of a stopgap and didn't know what to do next. So he told me about some ticket office jobs that were coming up. So suggested that in the interim, until I knew what I wanted to do, why didn't I just apply for that? So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I applied and was successful. So I became a ticket office clerk. And the good thing about joining the railway, even as far back as when I did, you know, once you're in the railway, there's so many diverse jobs that you can do. And it's true what they say, you're either in for 6 months or you're a lifer. And I sit here, I'm 28 years in the job, so I guess I'm a lifer. But so yeah, I did the ticket office job for a couple of years, and then I became a guard on the trains, which I really enjoyed that. Interacting with passengers and travelling around was great, really enjoyed that. And that was my first sort of step into safety critical job. So it was really interesting to learn that side of the industry. And then I did that for about 5.5 years and then decided that I wanted to take the next step in my career. So for me, that was, I became a train crew supervisor, which is a bit like resources now. So I did that. Again, at that point, I hadn't even thought of becoming a train driver, was just really enjoying the jobs that I was doing at the time. And yeah.
For those of you that don't know, just give people an insight of what resources are, a small insight.
Okay, so the main bulk of my job was to cover if somebody went sick and you needed to make sure that you had a driver or a guard on the train. That's the main bulk of what the resourcing team do, making sure that there's staff on the train. Obviously, when there's service disruption, you drivers and guards might get a little bit displaced, so then you have to manage what that looks like, make sure that your train crew have a sufficient break, get back to their home depot in plenty of time, and then if there is, you know, severe disruption, how you manage the timetable the next day. So what I liked about that job was it was very much no 2 days were the same, so it was very different. You'd have days where everything was perfectly fine, and then you'd have service disruption, and you know, may as well throw your pieces of paper out the window because the plan went with it. So yeah, so I did that job for about 3.5 years, and then that role got displaced, and that's when I went and did my train driver's assessment, and I became a qualified train driver in 2009. Yeah.
Perfect. How long were you train driving for?
So technically, I still am a train driver. So I've still got my key and I still maintain my competency. So I was a train driver for SWR. I've only been with GWR for only 4 years now. So I did my training and driving when I was with SWR. And yeah, so I went into management in 2018. So on paper was a full-time train driver for 9 years. Fantastic job, really enjoyed it. But for me, I just wanted something a little bit more, wanted to develop my career a little bit more. And the joy of doing my job is that I still get to go out and drive a train to maintain my competency. So I still get to enjoy that aspect of the job. No phones on and just get out and drive a train, which I still really enjoy.
So when did you make the jump from obviously going from, when you left SWR, is that when you came to GWR then became head of drivers, or did you have a job between there that you did?
So I became a driver standards manager in 2018 with SWR, and quite quickly went up through the management ranks. So I was a driver standards manager for about 14 months. Then I became a depot manager. And it was when I was a depot manager, I did a bit of mentoring for a female driver at Exeter, who I'm pleased to say is now a DSM as well, and she's a fantastic DSM. But I did a bit of mentoring with her, and that put me in contact with some people in GWR. And I'd never really thought about moving train companies. I'd been at SWR for 24 years, was very settled, lived on the network at SWR. But there became an opportunity at GWR to come in as head of driver training and development. So looking after the train driver academies at Reading and Bristol. So that's what I came over to GWR as. But it was always my goal was to become a head of drivers one day. So yeah, I became a head of drivers here nearly 3 years ago now.
Oh, it's nice that you said and head of training and whatnot, because I wasn't sure of what exactly you was head of, but I guess you're more. Is it on the more of the training side? When the title head of driver, is it more? Would you say the training side of things that you're the head of, or?
No, so it's all of it now. Okay. So when I did head of driver training, that literally was just the driver trainers. So I'd look after the academies, and I'd look after, all of the trainers, and they'd be responsible for the driver training. So that's new drivers coming into the business, and that's qualified drivers. If we get them transfer over, they'd be responsible for all of that. Now, as the head of drivers, I'm responsible for anything and everything drivers. So look after all of the driver depots. So we're split into regions, because GWR as a geographic business is quite large. Yeah. So we're split into the East, Central and West regions. So I've got a regional driver manager that manages each of those. And then obviously the depots and the driver standards managers are all responsible for the day-to-day management of drivers, and I oversee all of that, and I'm the strategic lead for the function and make sure that we're moving the function forwards in the right way.
Oh, thank you. Makes sense. I guess that's good for people that have interviews. I guess that's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's kick things off with the first question. Just want to say this came about because I get tons of messages and stuff online around train driving. As you know, like train driving is a very popular job role on the railway. Yeah. So the first question is, what's the qualifications and training needed to become a train driver?
Okay, so you don't actually need any baseline qualifications to be a train driver. We've got people that come in at all various stages in their life that come in as a train driver. We do have some apprenticeships some of our train driver courses are run as apprenticeships, and for those you do need GCSE Maths and English. But even if you don't have those, they encompass that into the apprenticeship, so you then end up with a qualification in GCSE Maths and English as well. Yeah. But for an entry level, we don't have a prerequisite amount of GCSEs or A levels that you need to have. You need to be able to pass all of the psychometric testing. But from an entry qualification level, there isn't a baseline that you need to hit.
Oh, perfect. I guess that just lets everyone know anyone can apply. So yeah.
Yes.
All right, so what's the most challenging part of the training process, considering you've been through it yourself? And what would you say that and how did trainees overcome it?
So probably the hardest thing is it's a lot to learn. It's a very safety-focused job, especially if you've not done any classroom-based learning for a while. Yeah. Like I say, we attract all age ranges into the driver grade, which is fantastic. That's what makes it so diverse and full of knowledge. Yeah. But equally, there'll be people that have come, straight out of college that will be used to having been in that environment, and there'll be people that have been in other industries. This might be their second career or what have you, and they may not have been in that classroom environment. And it is a lot to learn, especially if you don't have any basic railway understanding. The railway, we love an acronym. So there's lots of acronyms, and there's lots of, slang that we use. And sometimes that can be the hardest thing. So, for anybody that's interested, just try and do a little bit of research on what the railway is, how we operate, just to give yourself a bit of a base level understanding. But yeah, don't worry. It's something that everybody fears, the training, but that's what we're there to do. We're there to teach you.
Can you still recall your time during the training process?
I can. Yeah. Yeah. It was long, but you get a real sense of achievement when you pass out. You know, it's a lot of work you have to put into it. And it's not just I only do it whilst I'm in the classroom. There's homework, there's understanding, giving yourself the time at home. So you need to have a really good, strong support network around you to help you with that as well. But the sense of achievement when you get your key and you pass out is phenomenal, and there's no feeling like it. And I still remember that.
Oh, bless. All right, so how does the recruitment process work, and what qualifications do companies typically look for?
Okay, so the recruitment process is robust. But that's because the job that we're recruiting for is a serious, high-profile job that has a lot of responsibility that goes with it. So there's psychometric testing, we're testing concentration, we're testing how you retain and take on information. So it's all geared up to make sure that you're able to learn. So that's what the main part of the recruitment process is. There's interviews, multimodal interview where we ask you certain questions, just to kind of get some background information about you when you might have been exposed to typical competency-based questions around, name a time when. So that we can really pull out of you what sort of experience you've had of safety critical environments. Then obviously, if you're successful through all of that, then you have to have a medical, and there is baseline requirements for passing the medical as well. So it's a long and in-depth recruitment process, but that's because the job is really responsible, and we need to make sure that we're recruiting the right people that can deal with the level of training. It's around about a year of constant training, so you need to be able to adapt to that.
All right. Sorry if any of these questions come off a bit odd. Literally, I just copied and pasted and put it down on paper. So it's literally, the way it's written is how the message is.
Okay, yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who wants to pursue a career on the railway but doesn't know where to begin? What would you say for an individual?
So fortunately, we're in a very, very advanced stage from a technology perspective. So there's lots of things that you can find out online. And when I used to interview as a DSM, when I was interviewing for drivers, we'd be looking for for people having to have gone out and found out a bit about GWR, a little bit about the job that they're applying for. So definitely look at that. Equally though, don't try and learn too much, because you can start to confuse yourself. And whilst the rule book is black and white, I wouldn't expect somebody to come into an interview and be able to quote sections of the rule book. That's what we train you for. What we want to see is that you've had some attempt at finding out more about the job, more about the company, because it is a lifestyle. Being a train driver, we're asking you to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to come to work. We're asking you to work at, until 3 o'clock in the morning, or night shifts, or what have you, whatever depot you go to. So, you need to understand those kind of challenges. So it's more about showing that you've understood the challenges of the role rather than the technical knowledge, because that's what we're here to do. That's what we teach you.
So true you said that, actually, because I know an individual that went into their final interview, and they were really talking about the technical aspect, and they failed because of knowing too much, and I guess talking too much as opposed to talking about experiences and whatnot.
Exactly.
So I guess it could be a bad thing as well.
Yeah, most definitely. What we want to do is I want to, when I'm interviewing someone, I want to hear about you and what you can bring to the job. Like I say, the rule book and all of the technical aspects of the role is what you learn about when you start with the academies. What we need to understand is what you can bring and what you as an individual bring to the role. So
makes sense. All right, so next question is, what's the most unexpected thing people ask when they find out you was train driving, for example?
So people go morbid, right? The amount of times when I was train driving, they asked the question about fatalities all the time. And I think it's because it's a real risk. And people are interested in a morbid way, but also want to understand what that means to somebody who's a trained driver. Now, I was fortunate. I never had touch one, never had one. Nearly, but never had one. But as part of the process for training, we train you to deal with the incident. Now, everybody reacts differently. It's an emotional response. And the stress response. So we can't train you for that because each person's different. But what we can do is train you for how you deal with the incident as it happens. And then we make sure that you're signposted to all the relevant chain of care and support that we provide following an incident like that. So yeah, that's always one of the things I get asked. That and how do you park a train? That's another one. Which again, you don't need to worry about reversing into a parking space. Yeah.
Anyone ever ask you guys a steering wheel? Because I know that.
Oh yes. Yeah, quite a few times. Yeah. How do you steer the train? Yeah.
Bless. All right, so next one. What's one common misconception about train driving that always makes you laugh?
So probably the steering wheel thing. So, the train's on rails. You're not going to steer that anywhere. But yeah, so that one's quite amusing. It used to be more prevalent back in, this is probably before your time, Derek, but I'm older than you. When we had slam door trains, you had a parking brake on the second man side, and you would turn and it was a wheel, so people would think that was the steering wheel to drive the train. But yeah, so that one's quite a common one. They'd be surprised how many people ask that question about how you steer a train. Yeah.
What's the best way to prepare for an assessment and an interview during the application process?
So again,
you can draw back to like when you was applying, for example.
That was a long time ago.
Was it different? I can imagine it was different.
The psychometric testings, they get reevaluated every so often, which is good because obviously the technology that we have available now is a lot different. I did my testing back in 2007, 2008, so a little while ago now. But there's lots of online testing that you can do, but there's lots of access to kind of sample tests that you can do. Everybody thinks that to be a trained driver, you have to be really mechanically minded. But you don't. I'm not a particularly mechanically minded person. But it's more about adaptability to certain scenarios. So those are the things that we're looking at. And then, just prepare yourself for interview and to have an understanding of what the job actually is. Like I say, the bulk of the job is around the lifestyle changes that you'd need to make. Driving a train is just one small percentage of what it takes to actually be a train driver.
Yeah, that's true. All right, the next question. How does the medical and the fitness screening process work for new train drivers?
Okay, so as I said, it's robust. So we have certain medical standards that have to be achieved. So we will do things like measure your height and weight. We also do eyesight checks, hearing checks, blood pressure checks, ECGs. So it's like a full MOT when you go for a driver medical.
That's a good example.
Yeah, it is a full MOT. And there's a level of competency from a medical standard that you need to achieve. You need to be able to get up and down off of a train down to track level. So you need to have a good level of mobility. So there's all things that people wouldn't necessarily think about. And if you've got quite a sedentary lifestyle, which a lot of us have these days, especially since COVID, you need to think about whether or not you need to make some tweaks to give yourself just the best opportunity at passing a medical, because it is very robust and the standards are very, very tight and rigorous.
But it's funny you mentioned about getting up and down off the train onto the tracks, because I remember going to the depot, and when you see the train, it's actually pretty high up from the ground, and I don't think people realise that.
when you're stood on the platform, all you see is above your soul bar level.
Exactly.
You don't realise, like you say, exactly what is below that line, and it's a lot. So when you're climbing up and down from ground level, you know, you need to have the ability to do that. Exactly. So it's and also we have to factor in. Would you be able to walk on ballast if you needed to detrain, or or you needed to do protection? Could you walk 1.25 miles on ballast, which is big stones that are very uneven to walk on, things like that. So that's why the medical process is as stringent as it is, and we do see quite a high failure rate. So it is something that we need. If you're seriously considering applying for a driver's job, just have a little bit of a think about what you might need to put in place from a lifestyle perspective to make sure that you're in the best place.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people don't consider that, because I think once you pass your assessments and your interview, pretty much most people think job done.
Yeah.
Then it's the medical stage.
Absolutely.
You whether you pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember having an incident on board actually where we had to get people off the train because there was a fatality.
Yeah.
And like you said, like some people were really having difficulties with coming off the train and onto the tracks.
Yeah.
So.
I said, the train driving element of the job is only one small part of what the job actually is. And, if you're going to be walking around depots and sidings, you might be doing a little bit more walking than you think you are. You need to have a base level of fitness, for sure.
This is a little bit off topic. Did you ever count your steps for I don't know if you had your...
This was before Apple Watches, I'm afraid, Derek. No, I didn't. But maybe I should do when I go out driving next. Yeah, because you even changing ends. If you're doing some branch line work, just changing ends, going backwards and forwards, it's more physical than you think it is, actually. Yeah.
How important are the psychological factors like concentration and decision making in the role?
They're very important, and that's why the robust checks are in place as part of the recruitment process. Those are the key things. We need to make sure that you're able to. If you're driving a train for a long distance, you need to be able to maintain your concentration for maybe 2-3 hours at a time if you're doing a long distance route, and that takes some skill, or equally to be able to know when you need to step forward and really get yourself back into the zone. So that's why the recruitment process is as robust as it is, because we need to make sure that you're able to maintain the concentration and to be safety focused when we need it.
Oh yeah, what's the thing most trainees struggle with when they sit in the train driver's seat for the first time? You can talk about your experiences as well if you want.
So we gear everything up to phase you into that so that it's not really daunting. But let's face it, you've just spent 6 to 8 weeks in a classroom learning about this stuff. So when you first sit in that seat, although you do slow speed movements, so we don't go straight out there and say, right, you're going to drive this train at 125 miles an hour. We do slow speed movements and build up to it. It's very much about you're trying to put everything that you've learned into practice. And that can be quite overwhelming when you first do it. But rest assured, when you're out with your driver instructor, your DI, that's what they're there to do. So the training academy...
For those that don't know, what is a DI?
A driver instructor.
Okay, yeah. Carry on. We'll
Okay. So driver instructor. So they are very much the ones that teach you to be a driver. Okay. So the academies will teach you about all of the rules and regulations and everything that goes behind train driving. But your driver instructor who sits next to you and tells you, what speeds you should be doing and when to shut off and brake and all of what stations are coming up, they're the ones that will really help hone those skills. So yeah, it's the driver instructors that will help you. You personally, what would you say, when you sat on the chair for the first time, what would you say, your struggles were? Did you have any struggles, or was it natural for you, or? It wasn't natural. Yeah. I would say it was more that it was just you don't want to miss anything. Okay. But because you learn so much theory, you just naturally think that you're going to need that theory every single second of every day, and you don't. So the training academy teaches you all of the rules stuff that you need for degraded working. So if something goes wrong and you need to do single line working, for example, now you don't need that every day. But when you first come out of the training academy, you've got all of this information in your brain, and you don't need that most of the time just to drive a train from A to B. So once you stop overthinking that and just focus on actually driving the train, that's why I say the driver instructor sat next to you will be the one that really helps you recognise which bits of information you need to use regularly and which bits you need to keep. You need to keep your knowledge up to date, so you need to be constantly refreshing that information, but you don't need to use that every single day.
Have you ever seen someone try to rev a train like it's a sports car during training?
So some of the diesel fleet, you do have to rev it quite hard before you take your parking brake off. But no, I don't think anybody's tried to rev it like a racing car. I don't think I've ever seen that.
So, what's the funniest reaction you've had from someone after telling them you was a train driver?
That they couldn't believe I was a train driver. So, you know, we have a very low, not a very low percent, we have less female drivers than we should have. There are more now, which is fantastic. But when I became a driver, I was one of a depot of 140, there was only 5 female drivers. So for me, sitting here today, Derek, talking to you, is saying to women out there, you know, I was a single mum, I had my son, I was managing my shifts. The job is so accessible and can actually adapt. It actually works to whatever home life situation you've got going on. So I used to do permanent earlies all the time. That worked with me and my childcare provider. And being the train driver actually fit that better than probably a 9-to-5 job would have done, to be honest with you. So yeah, if I can get the message out there to women, and equally, I've done a few mentoring sessions with females, and the main thing for me is it doesn't just stop when you get your driver's key. That key opens the doors to many, many other opportunities beyond just being a train driver. Some people that's all they want to do, and that's fantastic. But for me, I wanted a little bit more, and having that train driver key has, pardon the pun, opened a lot of doors to a fantastic career. And I sit here as the head of drivers with that driver competency. So that's you know, that just being a train driver, it doesn't need to stop there if you don't want it to. There's lots of other things that you can do once you've got that train driver key. Training, op standards. So yeah.
Just like to add, like, you've got a very interesting life. We'll definitely have to do another one.
Yeah.
Didn't know that you went from obviously single mum to
yeah.
Interesting. Definitely like very relatable. I'm not female, but like I know a lot of like single mothers and
Good. That for me, part of the reason I wanted to be the head of drivers was that I wanted to drive change. I wanted it to be different to how I did have a hard time when I first had my son and came back to work.
Sure.
Yeah, it was tough, but I put things in place to make sure that I loved driving trains. So for me, I didn't want it to be a choice between my son and my job. I should be able to have both.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I put things in place, and
society is definitely doesn't make it easy.
No.
For sure. What advice would you give someone planning to relocate for this career? Any tips for a smooth transition?
So I relocated, funnily enough, since joining GWR. So I have first-hand experience of this.
Good question.
Yeah.
Was the railway your first ever job? Like, did you have jobs?
No. So
okay.
I joined the railway, and this probably, I don't mean it to sound bad, but the reason I joined the railway was because at the time I was working as a manager at McDonald's. I was doing really well. I was an assistant manager at the age of 18, was earning a really good salary, had lots of opportunities open to me. And it was my dad turned around to me and said about the ticket office job. And it was only because I thought to myself, well, where can I go in McDonald's? You know, whilst the doors were opening at that point, it had a ceiling. And for me, I really wanted a career. So this was literally supposed to be a stopgap until I knew what that career was going to be. And little did I know that the railway provides everybody with a fantastic career and so many different opportunities. Like I say, I've done lots of different jobs, which has given me some brilliant experience. And yeah, would just encourage anybody to go for it.
For some reason, like, I think most people, we just assume anyone obviously in your position is just loves trains and just...
No. No.
All right, we're going to touch on your hobbies near the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be interesting in what you do outside of your job. All right, so what's the best way for a younger person or younger people to explore this career if they're not old enough? Because I know there is an age that you need to be to drive trains.
So there's lots of different opportunities for people, especially younger people on the railway. We've got fantastic apprenticeship schemes. If you're even younger than that and you want to just understand what the railway looks like, there's lots of forums available online that you can have a look at and just understand what the railway really looks like. If you're in that age bracket, say between 16 and 18, like I say, apprenticeships are fantastic for just getting your foot in the door and understanding what different options are available outside within the railway network. So, you know, we have different types of apprenticeships in customer service and engineering that all give you a really good base level understanding of just how the railway works. We have looked at, obviously, it's been on the news recently that they're lowering the train driving age down to 18. So we're still working through what that looks like for GWR. But again, for me, younger people coming into the railway is fantastic. It brings a whole different level of diversity through different thought processes. I've got a 14-year-old son who definitely thinks very, very differently to me. And I think, you know, we recognise that the railway has an ageing workforce. So having younger people come in is fantastic. Just opening the railway network up to just a little bit fresher thinking and new ways of thinking. I think it's exciting times.
All right. So what does it feel like to drive a train solo for the first time without an instructor? Any memorable moments?
So I still remember my first train on my own. It was the 6th of September 2009. Yeah, I only know that's my sister's birthday, so that's how I remember it. But it's really unnerving because you've had somebody sat next to you for so long. And as I said, I was a train driver at Bournemouth. So I bought the train out of the depot to go empties to Bournemouth and then start the passenger service up to London Waterloo. And I remember looking over and realising that I was on my own. And it's a real eye-opener because that's what all the training has been for. That's what you've been preparing for. But I don't think anyone could prepare you for the moment when you've lost your support crutch. But really quickly settled into it and really, really enjoyed it. So the first move I made, the first shunt move was a bit like, but after that, really settled into it, really enjoyed it. And like I say, I still really enjoy getting out and driving now. It's a fantastic job. It really is, especially on a lovely sunny day like today, driving through the countryside. There's nothing like it.
All right. Have you ever interviewed someone with an unusual background who turned out to be a great train driver? And do you even remember, this is just me asking, do you even remember doing interviews or whatnot?
I do. That was one thing I used to love doing when I was a DSM, was I loved interviewing people because the railway industry is changing and we're attracting different people. And I've interviewed some really interesting people. One memorable one was a guy who was a cameraman, so you'd appreciate that. He was a cameraman for Sky Sports, and he was telling me about a time where he'd gone off and filmed the cricket somewhere really fancy and just just listening to people's different life experiences, that's what I really enjoyed about interviewing. And it just goes to show that, you know, we are attracting different people with all different backgrounds, all different life skills, which is fantastic. And it's a really exciting time to be in the rail industry. And, you know, we're only going to be recruiting more and more drivers. So, it's one of the parts of my job that I miss, actually. I used to really, really enjoy interviewing and hearing about different stories that people had to bring, different experiences.
I guess it makes the interview less boring, I guess.
Yeah, and
When you
it's...
talk about it and you hear them.
I've been on the railway for a long time. So this was, you know, I joined the railway when I was 18, and to hear of different people's different experiences and backgrounds and where they'd come from, for me, it's fascinating, and I love to hear about that. You know, when I go out and I do cab rides now and I get chatting to drivers and I hear, you know, some of them, like I said, this is their second career, and hearing what they've done beforehand, you know, armed forces, police, all of those kind of different jobs, just goes to show what the diversity that we're attracting into the role now, and yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Looking back, if you were to speak to a younger Claire Weston, like, what would you like? What advice would you give to her? Like, no, like, you just come out. Did you go? You said you went to college, yeah?
I did sixth form, yeah.
Sixth form, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've just come out of sixth form. You're sitting down with a younger Claire Weston right now. Like, what advice would you give her?
Don't overthink it, just go for it. So I've done lots of different things in my career because I always think, why not? Why not? I've got nothing to lose. I'm really interested in learning. I really like having that diverse knowledge myself. I like the fact that I can speak to train drivers, having been a train driver. I've lived their experience. So for me, and it's the one piece of advice I give to anyone that I'm mentoring or I have discussions with, don't ever think, why me? Think, why not me? So, you know, just... if you're thinking about train driving as an option, think, why not me? If you're thinking about any career as an option, it's why not me? It doesn't have to, you don't have to conform to a certain stereotype. I don't sit here as your typical head of drivers, but that's good. Because in order for us to move forward and have more diversity of thought, we need to have different people in those teams. And I've got a very diverse team. Everybody brings something different to the table, and that's the best way that you can perform, having those different thoughts. So yeah, that would be my piece of advice. Don't think why me, think why not me.
I get this question a lot as well. How about if you're abroad somewhere and then want to be a train driver in the UK? Got to mention it.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Let's just imagine your friend calls you up. She lives in Spain.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to be a train driver.
Yeah.
What would you say to her?
So the people think that if you're, for example, if you're a train driver abroad, that you can just come over. So we have train driver licenses. Used to be European train driver license, but they're train driver licenses now. They're not transferable. So So other countries don't have train driver licenses that are the same as ours. So it wouldn't be that you would be able to transfer over as a qualified driver. You would need to do all of the testing and do the training again. But equally, you know, as long as if you're...
How about if they're not?
If you're looking to relocate and come back to England, then absolutely. As long as you're mindful that our recruitment process is robust and you need to live within 60 minutes of your depot. So, but the process takes some time. So if you're looking to relocate and you want to relocate within 60 minutes of a GWR depot, then that's absolutely fine. You need to be clear that you are relocating, otherwise you will be sifted out. Obviously, we can't have people applying from all over the world if they've got no intention of moving over. So, but yeah, that shouldn't be a barrier to you applying for a job, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Not that I'll do this. It's a bit odd, but imagine I had a pair of binoculars. I was looking. If I was like, I don't know, what would you be doing in a typical weekend or your typical day off where you got all the time in the world? Or let's just say you got a week 3, like what does
Yeah.
that look like?
So I love to travel. Anybody that knows me, it's a bit of a joke that I'm never, when I'm on my leave, I'm not in the country because I love to travel. I like, when I say about the interviewing, I like hearing different people's backgrounds. I love experiencing different cultures. So if I'm on annual leave, it's very rare that I'm in the country, to be honest with you. I like to go and I've had a few trips already this year. So that's for annual leave. The day-to-day is actually pretty boring. I have a son, a dog, and a husband. So it invariably means spending quality time with the family. Because
what dog have you got, by the way?
I've got a pug.
Oh, pug, yeah?
Yeah, he's just turned 9, so he's struggling a bit in this heat at the moment.
Yeah, what's your favourite like country? You said you've travelled. Like, what's your favourite destination?
So I've got a few.
Let's say your top 3.
Top 3. Okay, I'm fortunate. I've been to the Maldives a couple of times. Maldives is beautiful.
Is it as good as like people say? Or?
Like you genuinely. I arrived there thinking that they used to superimpose, like really enhance the colours in the brochures of the sea and everything and the sand. No, it really is like that in real life. It's beautiful, absolutely stunning. But it's a very much a switch off holiday. So there's so that's, if you want relaxation, that's the place to go. For culture, I love Thailand. Thailand is the food, the people, the culture, just everything. Thailand is fantastic. And I also love Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah,
that wasn't your first time, yeah?
No, so I've just come back from Mexico. It's my 3rd time, yeah.
Oh,
so, again, food, the people, the weather. I mean, yeah, it's, those would be my top 3.
Top 3, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. I'm surprised about Thailand because I hear a lot of people going for Thailand, but for other reasons.
Oh, yeah. It's got such, like, the architecture and the culture in Thailand is fantastic. It's the only place I've been. We've been in Bangkok, and you turn the corner and there's an elephant walking in the street. I mean, it's phenomenal, fantastic place. Yeah, no,
I appreciate it once again. I really appreciate it. A lot of these questions, like I said, are just general questions that I get in from a day-to-day. And to be honest, I didn't answer none of them. I thought I'd save them for this day. Yeah. So I really appreciate it. If I do have any, we'll definitely have to do like a second one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like the next interview I do with you, I definitely want to touch more upon like, or just get more of an insight of like you before the railway, because you seem like you've got a very interesting past.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it today. Thank you. And
I think that one thing that I like about like you being where you are now is the fact that you haven't had it easy. And I think looking from outside, sometimes we can just see someone in a particular position, we just think, oh, they've had it all easy, they've like, literally just rocked up and got the job, or, you know, so knowing obviously that you're a single mum. And it's been challenging, and it definitely hasn't been easy. There's been times where, you know, you do start to wonder, and I know I've spoken to you about this previously, about you shouldn't have to make the choice between family or work. You should be able to do both. And there was a time when it was particularly hard when I had my son and I came back to work. But I was very fortunate. I had some fantastic supportive colleagues. I managed to get swaps in place to enable me to come back to work, because ultimately that's what I wanted to do. I love train driving. I wanted to be driving. I didn't want to be perceived as a burden to anybody. And this was part of the motivation for me to become a head of drivers, was that I wanted to be somebody that could help influence the change. And I would like my position to be used to make it easier for people that were at similar positions to myself, to be able to have a career and be a mum. It shouldn't be an either or. You should be able to have both. So if I can use
use my experience to help that, then I will. Because the railway, like I said, it's opened many doors for me. But you have to work hard and you have to want it. And I work hard and I want it. So the sky's the limit.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No worries,
It's been a pleasure.
Derek.
It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, no, I really enjoyed it. Thank you.